Erica Lorraine Spencer here. This is the P.O.C, Pattern of Conduct, real-time documentation of the state of California's criminal pattern of conduct of federal stalking in concert with the people of the state of California in violation of existing federal law, that is 18 U.S.C. section 2261A, subsection 1 and subsection 2. This is ongoing documentation that is specifically gathered following my release from kidnapping by this entity that was ceaselessly monitoring in violation of 18 U.S.C. and in violation of Title 15 and in violation of the Prison Rape Elimination Act, as I was subject to the same exact criminal pattern of conduct while kidnapped by this entity seeking to conceal this criminal system that I am documenting and publishing and exposing on the venue of the internet, where I am also subject to the criminal pattern of conduct, and understand that kidnapping is the pattern of conduct that is criminal obstruction of justice, as the entity seeks to avoid prosecution and to avoid documentation and exposure for engaging in this criminal system. The people of the state are the vicarious aspect of the entity. They are engaging in federal stalking as I am kidnapped by the state inside of the state facilities, all right? And they are fully engaging in kidnapping upon criminal summoning. So this is the this is the entity from beginning to the end engaging in the criminal acts of the federal stalking and the acts of criminal obstruction of justice. This is also documentation on the venue of the internet engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct via obstruction of justice, and this is in any way reducing or removing the ability to publish the ongoing documentation of the state's criminal pattern of conduct, which is waging an ongoing threat to my life as I remain subject to this criminal system. And this is the criminal pattern of conduct on the venue of the internet, okay? And that is the totality of what I have documented since release. I was kidnapped from June 18, 2021 from third-party facilitating venue of the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, where the Ontario Police Department were monitoring, and this in conformity to the ongoing wealth of documentation that I have already published, specifically revealing the Ontario Police Department engaging in monitoring and kidnapping, which was via the assertion of a fictitious warrant pursuant to a fictitious prosecution. That is the people of the state of California v. Erica Lorraine Spencer, case number Mary Wendy Victor 2000640. I was subject to kidnapping pursuant to this fictitious prosecution, documentation on the facility cameras everywhere that I was inside of the facility of West Valley, located at 9700 Etiwana Avenue in the city of Rancho Cucamonga, California, and at the state facilitating venue of the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, located at 8303 Haven Avenue in the city of Rancho Cucamonga, and I was subject to federal stalking ceaselessly at the jail, at the courthouse, in the courtrooms, okay? The same exact pattern of conduct ceaselessly underway. The kidnapping serves obstruction of justice, and that this is kidnapping that I endured from June 18th, 2021 up until August 16th, 2021. This is the P.O.C. That is the patrolling of the state via aircraft. That's helicopter activity. And as I start recording, Amtrak chimes in. Again, no train actually on the tracks. The state loiters with the train that will appear. All right. This is P.O.C. It's 8:33 a.m. at the museum. Amtrak stalking with the state. That's literally the sound of a tape of a train. It while you're here and you're accustomed to the pattern of conduct, it doesn't even sound like an actual train, and it's clearly amplified in sound, and it does not actually sound like a train. As the state turns up the volume so loud, in other words, it becomes morphed in sound. And by the way, this is that sound of the train immediately starts as I start recording. Like at the helicopter, then the state chimes in with the train. The same helicopter flying over me at the museum, at the library, flying in a circle over the museum. 8:34 a.m. And understand what I'm documenting, like I've already stated, but I just want to state it again. What I'm documenting the state engaging in, this is what the people are engaging in. (8:35 a.m.) That was the helicopter flying over, patrolling back and forth, and flies over the side of the museum where I am at. Okay? P.O.C. Alright, that's a commercial sized plane flying right over the museum, stalking with activity as I prepare to move from the museum. This is the same conduct that I document, for example, that the people engage in on a systematic basis. Okay, for example, what I recited as the pattern of conduct as it was underway inside of the Ontario Open Family Community Library, as I leave from one position inside of that venue to another, walking from the study room number 2, up to the front of the entrance area, and they meaning the people that are engaging in a demonic behavioral pattern that is accomplishing a criminal purpose of federal stalking, monitoring with communication devices, are literally following with noise. Okay, walking out of a door to create audible activity, hollering across the room as they walk in front of me in order to be in the path as I am in motion, sitting in the path, sitting at any desk in the path, engaging in the use of the hand dryer as they hold the bathroom door open as I walk toward that venue. This is what they are doing as I move from one place to another. That's exactly what the state is doing while I'm outdoors. Okay, as I begin movement from the museum, I've packed up my belongings, and this is the routine the state is following with noise. That's exactly what traffic is accomplishing. That's exactly what the state is doing, using the train, planes, and helicopters. And the state is always aiming its light source, right? So this is directed light, and this is the state's light source directly over my head, even as it is concealing it under what are artificial clouds, because that is the state's manipulation of the environment to cover up its fake sun that is remaining over my head underneath these fake clouds. In response to that direct documentation published about its stalking conduct with the light source, 8WIG 823, 8K WJ 544, 7HZV 434. They are moving sources of light as they use their vehicles to drive past. That's what you are looking at as you are assessing the elements as they exist. All right, the P.O.C. is ceaseless and constant, and it is massive. This is why you are stalking with a light source, because you are monitoring, and that does not stop at nightfall either. I've already demonstrated this. It is currently 8:45 a.m. It's P.O.C. All right, it is currently 8:50 a.m. And while physically indisposed, engaged in private activity inside of the private space, that is the restroom, I just want to document specifically the sexual violence that the state facilitating venue is intentionally engaging in. Understand, you're not just documenting federal stalking by an entity, you're documenting what is ongoing intentional conduct that is sexually motivated, that is speaking to the violence that the entity is engaging in while it is aware of your documentation and knowledge of its sexual violations. So that is an unprecedented level of a sex offender, and I want to document at 8:48 a.m. while my panties are down, okay, while I'm engaged in that personal activity that the entire entity is listening to. The same entity that's flying over me in helicopter and in airplanes and keeping a fake sun over my head and molesting with directed light and acting in concert with the people of the state who are engaged in that ongoing psychopath, like demonic conduct of maintaining presence in the path, including while you are in the bathroom, they're engaging in that stalking conduct, creating the same method of audible activity. It sounds as though like someone is kicking on the wall, like impact of the wall, like a boom, and then you're hearing some sort of flushing of water. The state is engaging in mimicking, like you're hearing the men's restroom, I guess, through the brick wall of the stall that I'm inside of. It is the creation of audible activity, and it is intentional conduct, and this is the ongoing maintenance of that environment while you're inside. The state is creating audible activity, that is monitoring, and that is sexually motivated. And I want to document the cameras are in use right now inside of the
Ontario Public Health Clinics located at 150 East Hope Boulevard. Understand all of Hope Boulevard, Metro 102 apartments, these venues all around, they're all monitoring together right now while I'm in that physical state of being indisposed, and they are engaging in that sick conduct of monitoring. And this is what the target individual is subject to. I am documenting the sexual violence of the entity, and that's at 8:48 a.m. It's 8:52 a.m. I remain inside of the venue. Want to make sure I publish that because they're going to be prosecuted for being that sex offender, acting in concert with the state of California, the public entity that is stalking me everywhere that I'm going. Helicopter activity over me while I'm at the museum, helicopter activity from the library to the museum. This is a day-to-day basis, and they're monitoring right now, and this is the sex offender exposed, okay? It's 8:52 a.m., that's P.O.C. All right, at exit of the restroom, and again, he was already standing there in relevant position, monitoring with the Ontario Police Department that are also simultaneously crossing path in front of the door that I'm walking toward to exit the health center at the same time that I'm leaving out. So this is monitoring in the bathroom that they are engaging in while they are crossing path on Hope Boulevard and Euclid Avenue. The Ontario Police engaging in ongoing federal stalking. That is the sex offender in a police vehicle, monitoring with Allied Universal, who was standing right outside the bathroom door in alignment. Matas, the same one I got on videotape. And he is monitoring, standing in front of the doorway. He walks toward the hallway that is on the first floor of that public health center at 150 East Hope Boulevard. And as I am walking toward the door, at the same time, the Ontario Police Department is crossing path, okay? This is simultaneous group conduct. And this is ongoing knowledge of where I am, what I am doing as I am doing it, including while physically indisposed in the restroom. That is the sex offender acting as one entity, the state and third parties. That's a state facilitating venue. The Ontario Police is a state actor, all right? And they are engaging in criminal facilitation on both parts. And this is sexually motivated conduct. So what I documented after I specifically spoke to the state engaging in the creation of audible activity inside of that private space with knowledge of what you're doing, that's the sex offender. That's the psychopath sex offender, the same one that I was documenting inside of the state facilitating venue of West Valley, by the way, and Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. You're talking about the people that are monitoring your documentation. That's the sex offender that knows that you're reporting the fact that it's a sex offender and a kidnapper and a stalker that then physically enters the bathroom. This tall Caucasian lady, she's got a boy haircut. She's about 5'9", 5'10", and she's a heavy set. I would say probably about 180, 190 pounds. She enters in the restroom immediately after I record that documentation. Understand, so first of all, what this is the psychopath that just comes inside of the bathroom to create activity. There is no form, and that is the same maintenance of audible activity, okay? Let me show you what is. All right, I just wanted to catch video of what is the ongoing stalking conduct by those demon-possessed stalkers. That is the Ontario Police Department. They represent the state, engaging in an ongoing provision of documentation, the fact that they're stalkers, and there is no form. And so you have Cardenas Markets in the drive-thru of Andy's Burgers in relevant position, monitoring with the Ontario Police Department. 8VXY640-80797U1 is the Cardenas. 6SWW719. They're all monitoring a relevant position. This is creating light. This is stalking with light. Understand that. That's what they're doing. They're maintaining presence in the path. This is the entity engaged in federal stalking, and this is demonic activity. Okay? So I just want to provide that ongoing knowledge of what I'm experiencing as I continue to walk in motion, and I'm describing the ongoing pattern of conduct as it is underway. It's ceaselessly underway, and you're looking at the ways in which a demonic entity that's engaging in criminal activity does so, how they do that. All right? And so it's basically the recognition of the elements, which are perpetually maintained in a malicious manner. It's demonic. 8SEV 874. All right? So in other words, there is no separation from the Ontario Police Department driving past me in the restroom. Seconds after my pants were down, they were monitoring before that as well. I'm just visually encountering them, while the state is always engaging in stalking by planes and helicopters and with the fake sun and directed light. None of that is separate. The fact that you saw 6 shadows around me last night is not separate from the fact that they are maintaining relevant position inside of the bathroom. Coming inside just to go inside of a bathroom stall and flush the toilet, which is the creation of audible activity in directed light, while I'm inside of that private space of that state facilitating venue, is not separate from the fact that the state just flew over my head again at the Ontario Museum of History and Art. This is the ongoing pattern of conduct. And there is no form. You're talking about a group stalker that enters inside of that private space to create activity. Okay? You're stalking in the bathroom. That's a sex offender. And an egregious one, because that's the state. And that includes the Ontario Police Department, who wants to be specifically cited. Then that's fine, because that's what they're engaging in while that psychopath is monitoring the documentation against it, that as it is being gathered. That's a very violent sex offender, okay? That's a very violent sex offender that is also engaging in what is not only gang stalking, because that's what they're doing, they're also engaging in what is repeated acts of kidnapping, and doing so while they are engaging in terrorism, which, by the way, the state is flying by helicopter again over Ontario Town Square townhomes, right next to me. Okay, that's P.O.C, and it is 9:08 a.m., 8VYE 320, 867YH handicap, 6NPW 544-92783Y2, 6KHX 609, 7G01221, 5NHF 298, 93280D3, 2TJV 424, 3LFX 221, 31829K2, 8PFK 478, 7PUP 057, 8BBN 725, 8JUF 002. State flying over the museum, state flying over the Ontario Town Square townhome, state flying over the entrance of the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library, Omnitrans, license plate number 1545484, stalking with light. While the state is flying over the apartments right here, that's not separate conduct. You're looking at what's demonic activity and using a commercial vehicle to do so. That's driven by an African-American male and stalking with light, and understand, arrives very inconspicuously. No announcement on the bus. They arrive inconspicuously as I'm documenting license plates. California 40428, that's Omnitrans, license 1545684, monitoring with the state that's flying over the apartment building, Ontario Town Square townhomes. There is no form. There is zero form. Okay? It's P.O.C. 9:10 a.m. at Shiro's Liquor inside of B&G Plaza. License 6ETR204. All right, I want to document, like I just created a substantial video of the Ontario Police Department the state is flying over my head, literally as I'm holding the camera on this stalker in the Ontario Police Department vehicle. The state is amplifying the sound of plane engines. That is also direct evidence against this bald-headed, demon-possessed stalker, representing the agency that has repeatedly engaged in kidnapping while they are engaged in federal stalking, while he is also demonstrating outwardly demonic possession, and I'll show you how. He's engaging in that same driving in a circle. It's just like walking in a circle. Let me get this license plate. 8KDF317, 5YXY911, 7UVW478. I've already documented a lot of these. 7Z06042. Yes, 7W24539. In case I didn't. That's audible activity. He's contributing to the pattern of conduct. 8KVJ162, M760HL, 7TVS495, 7FFG797, 7RIV284, 5VES 533. All right, and so what I documented with, like for example, yesterday, and this is what I spoke to on the video, this is a communication of a threat by the entity that is ceaselessly monitoring. All right, crossing path and driving in a circle, which is demonic conduct. All right, that's the pacing conduct. The state does this in helicopter. The state does this by third parties who walk around like psychopaths, like weirdos, freaks. They walk in circles. And they do this in the state's directed light while they have multiple shadows around their person and they're walking around in circles. That's exactly what I documented, for example, inside of West Valley Jail where those demon-possessed stalkers were monitoring. All right, license plate of Ontario Police is 1532792. That's what I documented on video while they are now loitering in relevant position outside of the vehicle, just standing in front of the senior center. All right, and group stalkers exiting the senior center, walking in the parking lot. That's called crossing a path. And this is criminal facilitation by the Ontario Police Department because they're monitoring together. In addition to the monitoring conduct, what I'm speaking to is that ongoing intent to terrorize. All right, so you have an agency that's engaging in federal stalking, engaging in stalking via law enforcement. That is unlawful under existing federal policy, 18 U.S.C. Engaging in federal stalking via law enforcement is that which is an unprecedented threat intended to terrorize. Doing so in concert with the people of the state, that is an entity. The multiplicity of faces, that gang, that unprecedented size of a gang, which are the people of the state, is an unlawful threat intended to terrorize. Doing so, by the way, at the specific venue where I documented the city hall yesterday as I walked through and I got all those group stalkers license plate, where the state was keeping its fake sun over my head, where I've got double shadows while I'm walking, that's no ordinary sunlight. They're monitoring and they're monitoring now. And the visual presence of the Ontario Police Department is a communication of a threat. This group stalker monitoring with the Ontario Police 7 UIP 208. And doing so is also the communication of a threat. And I'm providing context because this is how demons behave. So yesterday I'm walking through here and I'm letting you know about my documentation of City Hall already. Officer Cho of the Ontario Police Department arriving, and that was a communication of a threat by that venue. He having engaged in kidnapping before. My publishing of documentation yesterday of the Ontario Police Department, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Fontana Police Department. I have documented the police that I've been documenting since 2018. I published that. This is a communication of a threat in that regard as well, and this is how demons behave. And so you have him driving in a circle upon my arrival. Third parties are constantly patrolling. That's ongoing stalking in the presence and ongoing light activity. All right. You have what is the state that's stalking via helicopter. All right. While the Ontario police remain in relevant position. They're at my exit of the health center, crossing path as I'm walking down Holt Boulevard, crossing path again at Holt and Plum. As I'm walking back through this parking lot, they're driving in a circle like the demon-possessed stalker that it is in the parking lot, okay? Driving in slow motion, just driving in a circle, sitting stationary, using the brake lights as light activity, stalking in the path while listening that's a psychopath, listening the entire time to every word that I'm uttering. And that is the P.O.C. You can feign ignorance all you want. It's not persuasive. The pattern of conduct is long established, and this is a sex offender who is engaging in terrorism, all right? And also the communication of a threat, which is a demonic behavioral pattern, okay? It is 9:33 a.m. And again, I want to cite that. That's license plate 1532792. And on video, he already recited his badge number. He's just sitting in the parking lot and not free to do so. And this is what I'm saying. This is how you're going to prosecute, because the false premise of the system, the third parties can do whatever they want, go wherever they want. And they have the guise of, you can't prosecute because I don't know you. I'm not stalking you. I don't know what you're talking about. It's based on the ability to try to defame the target individual. It's based on the false premise that what they're outwardly looking like they're doing is separate from that target individual that's reporting ongoing stalking. None of that. It's all a false premise, and I have already proven that. And this is ongoing terrorism. That's what they're going to be documented for, okay, and prosecuted for. This officer engaging in the overt communication of that threat while sitting in relevant position, and that is reasonably construed based on the state's conduct of stalking directly, especially through police department personnel. And that's exactly what I've been documenting since 2018. There is no separation from the state that is constantly stalking by helicopter, and you're seeing Ontario police in relevant position as well. The state's ongoing maintenance of that environment, both inside of a private space and any location where I go, which is concerted with the people of the state that are also stalking with noise. These are demon-possessed stalkers, okay, engaging in federal stalking. All right. And so this is what this officer is doing now. And again, while I'm capturing this video, the state is over my head in this parking lot of the state facilitating venue, City Hall, in this parking lot, sounding plane engines over my head, while he is standing outside in the parking lot as though it's totally separate. That's the psychopath I'm documenting. The same psychopath that has engaged in repeated acts of kidnapping, having no legal cause whatsoever, engaging in what is claiming a fictitious warrant, referencing a fictitious case, while they're engaging in federal stalking, knowing exactly where I'm at, knowing exactly what I'm doing, engaging in ongoing criminal activity. License 1532792. Monitoring with this group stalker that's on camera entering and exiting the City Hall. And I want to get his license plate as well. It's criminal facilitation. This is license plate, this one that's on camera, and he is crossing path and he's acting with the Ontario Police Department, 7Z06042. And it is 9:35 a.m. That's P.O.C. Ontario Senior Center is monitoring, okay? Located at 225 East B Street. The City Hall. The Ontario City Hall is a state facilitating venue, like I said yesterday, engaging in welcoming the state's light source. Where the state's fake sun is present, you are welcoming, you are engaging, you are a group stalker, and it is also speaking to what is the ongoing demonic environment, letting you know directly what is wrong with everyone in relevant position. All right, so it does not matter that you have a job inside of the City Hall. I'm exposing what is demon possession, indiscriminate demon possession, and criminal activity. That is federal stalking. That, again, was just put on public display by that I'm just gonna keep it to the by that Ontario Police Department that engages in obsessive level of stalking conduct, which they cannot control. And you're talking about that which is of the demonic, so there is that as well. But that is the ongoing pattern of conduct right there. There is no separation, and that stalker literally just standing outside of his car, just sitting in the car, just driving around in a circle. All right, that's called relevant positioning. He's not just sitting in his car. He's not free to do that. You're monitoring, and you're going to be prosecuted for that. And the entity is going to be prosecuted in concert. That is the same threat posed by the state flying over me in a circle by helicopter day in and day out. That's what the police represent, in addition to the fact engaging in repeated acts of kidnapping. Okay, so that is what I just documented on video, and documenting third parties that are, again, they're inside of the venues monitoring. Okay, for example, McCarthy is over here in a relevant position outside of the library engaging in construction, which is their form for ongoing amplified audible activity that the state is using to monitor. UPS is in the parking lot of B&G Plaza in relevant position, all right, while the state is monitoring via aircraft and via the Ontario Police that are engaging in visual presence, which is the communication of a threat by that entity that's monitoring the documentation as I continue to publish it. All right, so you're talking about what is that observation of how, first of all, demons behave, and second of all, this is hostility to documentation. All right, and this is all of that which is reasonably construed when you are analyzing what is the threatening conduct of the stalker. That is an entity, not an individual. And that police officer representing that agency engaged in documented criminal conduct for a prolonged period of time is communicating that threat and is engaging in federal stalking, period. There is no form at all, okay? Using that vehicle as a means of stalking with light while the people of the state are patrolling around as well, maintaining presence in the path, okay? Ontario Police equals Ontario Fire Department equals American Medical Response ambulance vehicles equals the helicopters equals the aircrafts, both those provided by third parties such as Delta, such as Southwest, Alaska Airlines, Amazon Prime, UPS, FedEx, etc., and including the state's aircrafts when it uses its own government planes. That is the state acting directly, and third parties are acting vicariously in concert with that. And the Ontario Police Department just engaged in what is the demonstration of the state stalking directly. Okay? That's P.O.C. It's 9:38 a.m. $9:45 a.m. and the state is flying over the 280 North Limit Apartments. That's the state acting directly in the same way that the Ontario Police Department engaging in patrolling in the parking lot and light activity is the state acting directly. It's 9:45 a.m. $9:47 a.m. And that's called amplification. The intentional creation of audible activity while the state is stalking via aircraft and they are patrolling inside of the Ontario Open Family Community Library, walking through the hallways in relevant position to me while I sit on the side, monitoring inside. That's P.O.C. In no way separate or distinct from the state stalking directly, also via the Ontario Police Department. Okay? P.O.C. It's helicopter activity, 9:55 a.m. The ongoing pattern of conduct continues. Indeed, it is underway via the Ontario Police Department. There is no separation of that ongoing documented criminal system and the engagement in those criminal elements which are maintained. And that's what you saw on video, and that's what I was reciting in real time, that the Ontario Police Department engages in. And like I said, the way that this entity conducts itself, it literally is basing what it does. First of all, that was a failed response to what it is monitoring as to my documentation of the federal stalking conduct by the police throughout Orange County, Los Angeles County, and San Bernardino County. This is a state system. Second of all, the reason why is because the state's failed response is premised upon the separation of conduct. First of all, the notion that they are acting individually, the notion that, which is not, this is an entity, this is a government's pattern of conduct. A public entity is engaging in federal stalking, all right? The state, in other words, is the stalker. The state is the sex offender. The state is the one that is kidnapping. The state is acting vicariously through the people. All right, there is no individualization. You document an individual that happens to be engaged in the pattern of conduct that is acting on behalf of that entity whose pattern of conduct is underway, through whom the state is perpetually present. So this Ontario Police Department officer is arriving and is relying on the fact that you forget that I have documented day in and day out for years now ongoing stalking by the state in helicopter. Even today at the museum, as I'm walking up Hope Boulevard beside me over the Ontario Town Square townhomes, and again while I'm here on the side of the Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library, relies on you forgetting those facts. And it is ongoing documentation of an ongoing criminal act. All right, relies on the notion that you forget about the fact that this is an entity that is operating this criminal pattern of conduct, and relying on the false notion and the illogical, based on the documentation and the exposure of what is the pattern of conduct by an entity in an environment that is being intentionally maintained, that you are forgetting about that and just looking at him standing outside of his police vehicle. And forgetting about him just driving around in what's supposed to be presumed innocuous conduct of driving around in a circle in the parking lot. And it is not innocuous. You're looking at a state actor and that ongoing documentation and showing what is the environment that ongoing conduct is existing and the ongoing pattern of conduct that is acting in concert with that. Again, the state is amplifying plane engines over my head while this officer is relying on the outward form of his presence, and that is to be presumed as innocent. All right, and it is not. And it is also occurring within an ongoing pattern of the police remaining in the path everywhere that I'm at. That's why that's why I began documenting it. In addition to the fact of the ongoing conduct by the people of the state who are acting together pursuant to the same demented behavior. That's why I started documenting it. While I'm also documenting the environment that I am constantly surrounded by. Noise always following my physical movement and what I'm doing on a phone. That's why I started documenting it. Okay, so everything that you just witnessed the Ontario police officer engaging in, it's the P.O.C. The state is engaging in ongoing amplification of audible activity. His patrolling is relevant positioning, and he is in relevant position, pacing, moreover, demonstrating demon possession. But in addition to that, acting in concert with the state that's over my head, amplifying plane engines, and following me from the museum to the library in helicopter and airplane. Okay, that's the exact same pattern of conduct, and there is no response by that agency that's monitoring the documentation published against it. Here is another plane flying over 280 North Lemon Apartments, not separate from that stalking conduct that Ontario police officer blatantly and clearly engaged in on camera. Flying right over the 280 North Lemon Apartments while the minions, and understand they're underage, and this is exactly what you're documenting, the government monitoring with those who are under the age of 18. First of all, demon possession is not based on your age, and this criminal system is not limited by that age of majority. And they are monitoring, acting in concert, crossing paths at the same time that the state is amplifying audible activity. And this is also that which is demonic, while that entity is reacting to what is evident and that inevitable prosecution. That's the demonic aspect. That's the same clapping of the helicopter, 10 a.m. Okay, that's P.O.C, and that is what you will see that Ontario police officer that I documented in the vehicle in the state facilitating venue of that parking lot of the city hall, where the state is here. Again, I'm feet away from that same location, and there is no separation from that conduct. That was stalking by the state directly. The communication of a threat by the same entity that is stalking directly via helicopter right now at 10 a.m., listening to every word that I say and then engaging in that demonic behavioral pattern of communicating an ongoing threat while they're engaged in terrorism. Stalking by police is terrorism. Stalking by helicopter is terrorism. Stalking by the people of the state is terrorism. Stalking with a fake sun over your head, that's terrorism. All right? The people acting via McCarthy, the people stalking in the path on B Street in their vehicles, using them as light, the people stalking in the path at the front of the entrance of the museum, there's people stalking in the path, walking through this pathway. That's P.O.C. All right, 10:05 a.m. I just documented the state patrolling. By patrolling, that means repeatedly crossing path. And how are they doing so? Just like I was describing as the Ontario police officer was doing it. And this is called that pacing conduct by flying in a circle over the location where I happen to be at. And this is not an ongoing coincidence that I've documented it in writing and in video for over 2.5 years. This is the pattern of conduct, and it is revealing what is demonic activity. Okay, and that's what the state engaged in. Again, I captured on video, and I'm also speaking to what is the ongoing connection of that criminal act. That's not in any way separate from what I just documented the Ontario police visibly engaging in, and while doing so visibly, intentionally communicating a threat. Okay, aware of the documentation published about the police arrive at that state facilitating venue where I documented information about the police yesterday. Speaking of Officer Cho, for example, that engaged in previous acts of kidnapping while he was engaged in federal stalking. And arriving at that venue where I documented third parties inside of that and identifying that state facilitating venue, which is in no way distinct from any other third party or state facilitating venue. All right, where the state is engaged in placing its fake sun over that venue, and the state is present, creating light, stalking with light via the Ontario Police Department using that vehicle, acting with third parties that are patrolling in that parking lot, while the state, again, amplifying plane engines that I'm hearing over my head while the Ontario police officer is in front of me in that vehicle. And then I walk feet forward to go toward the library, and the state engages in flying in a circle repeatedly, which you're hearing on the podcast and in video, in helicopter. There is no separation of the pattern. There's no separation of those facts. That's the pattern of conduct. And the Ontario Police Department is the state acting directly. The state stalking via helicopter is the state acting directly. And this is not only criminal, it's demonic. It's demonic conduct. And there is no response that the state has to what it is monitored as I published that documentation. So you literally have what is an Ontario police officer engaging in another concession to engaging in federal stalking, as he is visible on camera, engaging in the very conduct that I said is in no way lawful or innocuous. It is in no way separate from that ongoing documented stalking and previous acts of kidnapping by that agency, but the stalking by the state, period. All right, and then you have the helicopter that flies in a circle. Punctuating my point. It is 10:08 a.m. and there is no separation of the P.O.C. And you already know at this venue where the state is patrolling right now outside, this is what the state is doing all day long. And Ontario Ovid Family Community Library is going to be prosecuted for it. Okay, they're monitoring with the state. 7XMP379 patrolling with simultaneity to that amplified sound of plane over the while I'm standing here. The sound is concentrated at the entrance of the library, and understand how you're looking at one entity. That third party is acting in concert with the library, which is the third party facilitating venue, which is acting in concert with everyone that's in relevant position inside of their buildings, inside of their home, i.e. 280 North Lemon Apartments. In traffic, this is one entity acting together. It's not separate. Okay, and so I want to document that it is currently 10:09 a.m. and that's the unlawful threat waged by the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library, and I'm going to prosecute them for that. Not just the idea of that company or brand of that identity, but also the individual actors that I have also documented. Okay, that's an unlawful threat. That's an animosity. You're talking about that which is demonic. And so you're talking about the communication of a threat through the very conduct, okay, which is also, legally speaking, reasonably construed based on an entity's engagement in stalking activity, all right, and monitoring, and based on the nature of the crime of monitoring, okay? So you're aware of what's being documented. You're engaging in more of that same conduct, and based on your identity as the government, that's an unprecedented threat that is directly intended to terrorize, all right? And while they are aware of what I am documenting and publishing, engaged in ongoing acts of trying to obstruct that. License plate 8PFF197-1564957, that's City of Ontario. Paper plate BS17K40, license 8T I'm sorry, 8JTT798, 6F25049, 4RMY375, 6ELM748, 7NTM370, 8JPA050, 7SRL068, 7FMF066, 16864M2, 6VNM188, 7VCL315, 8SDR387, 8EAX648, 7CKJ489, 8LOV092, 8PAE358, 8ROY394, 7MVW170, 7ZPS563, 5FZT168, 75161G2, 6DNU247, 6SGW544. I believe I read that license plate already earlier today. 79433D1. While the state is flying over this venue, understand all these third parties are in relevant position monitoring to that and communicating that threat together while they're monitoring with that entity, including with the Ontario Police Department. There is no separation. You're talking about the state acting directly, the state acting vicariously. 6WBF676, 20585P2. 10:12 a.m. All right, so I'm just giving you context as to what the state is doing. Yes, the state is engaging in federal stalking, establishing that pattern of conduct, making clear what the entity's futile effort in having a police officer, which I document, and in no way contradicting the ongoing pattern of conduct. So this is continuously underway, the pattern of conduct. But in addition to that, you have, let's get license plate. Hold on one second. Let me get this third party that's crossing path in the parking lot. License plate 7RYW. I'm sorry, 7RXW478. And drives around in a circle, parks in alignment to my property where I have to go to get my baggage claim. That's the stalking conduct by the people. Maintaining presence in the path. Opening and closing the door, not even getting out of the car, aiming headlights toward me. Okay? That's the same entity that was acting with the Ontario Police Department. They're one entity. License plate 7XEC689, 5UEB092. All right, coming and filling in this parking lot area as I'm back here documenting third parties. That's demonic conduct. They act as a pack. And it is also that ongoing stalking conduct by the entity. That's how they act together. All right, so like I said, while the pattern of conduct is underway, I'm going to speak to what is the failure and the inability. Okay, the state cannot respond to that which I have published. And I am dealing with an entity that's engaging in criminal activity that was, understand, supposed to never, ever be exposed. Never. First of all, the pattern of conduct is such that the targeted individual is defamed. Not only is the government monitoring and stalking, and then by virtue of that demented conduct that the state is engaging in, that very conduct that the state engages in, which the targeted individual would allege, and then who are you alleging it to? You're alleging it to a bunch of third party and state actors who then defame you because you are reporting what the state is engaging in. That's the pattern of conduct to defame, all right? And that is kidnapping. While federal stalking is underway, that's the pattern of conduct, and that's exactly what I've exposed. Not only is the pattern of conduct underway while this Ontario police officer is in the parking lot that I document this morning, this is in response to the published documentation about the police. The entity is very hostile to documentation. This is a demonic behavioral pattern, having been exposed and very familiar with this entity and how it behaves, how it conducts itself. All right, and this is the Ontario Police in the turn circle of C Street. All right, and so you have what is the presence of this Ontario police officer. While, by the way, the state is engaged in ongoing stalking via helicopter, in no way separate from that documented activity. So the state relies on your forgetting that, and then acts like, oh, well, this is the absence of any argument. That's the stalker in front of you, and all those third parties that I just documented right now, stalking with the police that are intentionally crossing path. That's the stalking, sex offending psychopath that engaged in kidnapping that I documented again for another 60 days inside of West Valley while they're engaged in kidnapping. There is no coincidence, all right? That's a stalker. That is a psychopath that just comes inside of the turn circle right now in alignment to me at the sidewalk, right? That's stalking in the path. That's what they were doing. The third parties were doing while I went to that back parking lot. They all start filling in that parking lot area in order to remain present, keep light on me, okay? This is the Ontario Police Department arriving in alignment to me where McCarthy is engaging in construction right now. So as I walk on the sidewalk, coming back toward the front of the entrance, Ontario Police is stalking in the path. That's exactly what they were doing in the back parking lot. In no way separate from the stalking conduct of the state via helicopter, which is always present. Not only am I documenting it, but it's always present and necessarily so in order to arrive at the drop of a dime and stalk with that method of activity creation, which is the state acting directly. And that is also the intent to terrorize. So you were speaking to what is the inability to respond, or everything that the state does is ongoing engagement in that pattern of conduct, and there is no contradiction of that established pattern of conduct. There is none. And this is long-term documentation of that. You're speaking to what is that unlawful intent to threaten, to terrorize, while they're acting as stalkers by a government. Alrighty, and that's Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library documenting engaged in that ongoing terrorism, right? While these demonic actors are inside acting like they're focused on the business of the library. It's a facilitating venue, and that's going toward their prosecution. That's P.O.C. State flying over the venue, circling around while I'm outside of the venue. State stalking by police in front and on the side of the venue. And that's the pattern of conduct. It's 10:17 a.m. while they are actively engaging in sexual violence and terrorism and stalking inside of the venue, keeping surrounded as like a army of demons, and doing so pursuant to what they know that I'm doing physically and on my communication device that is on the venue of the internet using communication devices. That's interstate commerce. That's 18 U.S.C. territory. And while they're engaging in that demonic conduct, that's speaking of terrorism. And that continues inside of the private space, which is the sexually violent aspect, because the pattern of conduct doesn't stop. So that's P.O.C., and it is currently 10:17 a.m. And that is upon arrival inside of the venue where nothing but federal stalking is underway. You're dealing with a bunch of psychopaths that are maintaining presence with that government that's flying around in helicopter and stalking by airplane and police. 10:17, that's P.O.C.
All right, I am capturing images of what is group stalking as it's underway inside of the third-party facilitating venue, Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library. Again, the state's pattern of conduct is underway, and so this is a venue. This is relevant positioning, and they are engaging in that ongoing demonic behavioral pattern pursuant to federal stalking, which is stalking with their presence in the path directly, because they're all in relevant position inside of the venue and outside. But as I am inside of the venue and I'm isolating the pattern of conduct as it is underway, while they are engaging in stalking with presence in directed light, I have already captured, so you're remembering, while they're in the path looking like they're stalking DVDs and books and walking by and asking questions and standing around talking to kids and talking to each other, they've got more than one shadow around them. They are in directed light. They are in relevant position with the state that's stalking with planes and helicopters over this venue, with the state's directed light, which is in this venue with multiple shadows. And so I'm taking pictures of what is group stalking inside of the venue, and that's what you will see in images. That is also accompanying the ongoing video documentation. It's 11:32 a.m. All right, what I captured on video is first of all, the state's directed light, which is present on the surfaces inside of the venue. This is a hallmark. I'm also documenting what is ongoing, not only the behavioral pattern, which is also demonic. They are stalking with activity, acting in concert with the state, acting pursuant to the state's criminal pattern of conduct of stalking with noise and stalking with their presence, arriving, walking past, or being stationary, as I've shown you in images, standing by, sitting by, looking like you're looking for a book, whatever is relevant to being in a library, okay? Trying to appear outwardly like you've got some sense of normalcy, and you're stalking with the state pursuant to a demonic behavioral pattern, while the state's directed light is present. And what you are also seeing is the light activity, which is absolutely abnormal. You can even see it with the furniture. I'm showing you my shadow on both sides of me, but you can even see it with the desk when you're walking, and you're seeing the
light as it is being light, which is the state's directed light, which is filling this place. This is why you can see the shadows of the desks and the chairs from both directions. And so you can pay attention to that as I'm walking through. This is telling you about the trajectory of light. This is inconsistent with the ordinary artificial lights. When you're walking in, for example, your apartment and you have the light on in your apartment or your home, wherever you live, you do not have multiple shadows. Okay, even if you have on 2 lights, this is not creating multiple shadows. This is the ongoing documented behavioral pattern while they are filling this building, which is a venue, and stalking with activity in relevant position. This is ongoing harassment documented also by a third-party group stalker who arrives stalking with activity as I'm accessing my podcast, and I do capture an image of him, which he is aware of. He is monitoring. This is the people of the state who are hostile, and his audible activity is that of telling me that he's going to go report to the staff who are monitoring with him. You're recording, which there is no indication that I'm recording. This is the exact same conduct they engaged in at Starbucks, where they are all engaging in stalking, using their phones, holding their phones up, using FaceTime, and I'm holding my phone up and narrating P.O.C. And if you're not paying attention to me, actually, you have no idea what I'm doing, because just like I am now holding my phone up and I'm speaking, I could be talking to someone. You don't know, you should know what exactly I am doing. And in addition to that, this is audible activity in relevant position in directed light in concert with the state that is stalking clearly by planes and helicopters and police. And it is the pattern of conduct which is also hostility to documentation. But I want to document that harassment, and I did document that third party. He is speaking on behalf of this venue that they're all monitoring together. While you've got directed light blaring in here, and while my shadow is surrounding me, that is going toward that prosecution of that entity. And so I have been seated at desktop number 27, and this is I wanted to show what is the state's directed light that it's present. And what the state was engaging in, feigning a cloudy day, it's not. The state is trying to limit as much as it can documentation of its stalking with light conduct, and that doesn't stop. The people of the state of California are stalking with light as they are in motion using their vehicles. The traffic lights are a means of light activity. As I showed you with the Ontario Police Department using their vehicle patrolling in relevant position is a means of stalking with light activity, and doing so while they are corporately maintaining presence and substantial audible activity. The elements remain present, and there is no, first of all, there is no contradicting a pattern. This is a long documented pattern as well, and the state, again, is failing because it is isolating, trying to isolate, trying to individualize, and is wishful of forgetting everything that has been documented for a very prolonged amount of time. And what the state has been engaging in with light, what the state has been engaging in stalking directly by police, fire, and ambulance, by planes and helicopters, this is a well-established pattern of conduct. And so you have, and on top of that, as the entity listens to me and analyze its conduct, how it is failing, how it has no response to what it's monitoring that I'm publishing about its criminal activity, the state flies over again in another helicopter over the same venue, by the way, which it did last night as I left the same venue, which it did this morning as I was at the museum, and as it did while I was en route to this venue. So this is that ongoing established pattern of conduct, and it is underway inside of the venue, and this is all manner of what is terrorism, sexually violent, and group conduct, which is the pattern of conduct for federal stalking. This is the relevant context is that this is literally demonic activity, and I am surrounded by demons who are engaging in absolutely demented group conduct while they are also harassing, hostile to that which they know I am documenting, and engaging in an ongoing effort to try to obstruct that. Okay, it's 2:59 p.m. and that is P.O.C. Okay, I took pictures of what are the sex offenders that are monitoring, including the mushroom head male that's sitting outside. I'm on the first area of the library, the quote-unquote quiet area where they're still stalking with noise, okay? But I'm on the first level, and stalking with activity, the male that walks downstairs, understand he's stalking with activity as he's crossing path. He's hurrying up, coming downstairs, and doing so as I'm in operation of my phone, taking pictures. And I'm taking pictures of what is relevant positioning to the restroom while they're engaging in federal stalking as I'm inside of the bathroom. And this is the... Also, what I'm taking a picture of is you can see the light, the directed light, that is it's literally just random light. You know how I describe how I have used the specific phrase of light just coming out of the atmosphere out of nowhere, because this is what the state engages in. That light that you are looking at that is on the bookcase, the red bookcase that is deliberately there, all right, this is a means of creating vibrant light illumination and placing that red bookcase there. And that light is inexplicable light. All right. That is not coming from, I took a picture from the bottom floor so you can see clearly what is supposed to be a space, a window space in the ceiling, which again, the actual sun is not over this library. It's not even over this sky space. The state is stalking with a light source. But even if the sun was physically over, for example, if you could actually see the sun over this address, for example, it's not going to result in this concentrated light inside of the venue. This is the state's pattern of conduct. And you have what is directed light that is inside of the venue. This is the hallmark, and I'm showing in a picture what is the this window that's above the staircase, and I'm calling it a window because I'm searching for a more precise way, but it's pretty much like a window in the ceiling, but it is not providing for any vibrant, rich, concentrated light that you are looking at by this red bookcase that is remaining, by the way. And the state begins this conduct, as I have captured it, at opening of this library, 10. But the state engages in not only moving this light and adjusting it, but also the times with which it does so. And so I want to speak to the presence of what is this directed light, and it is in no way coming from or even reasonably explained by this window space in the ceiling, which is again what I provided as the guise into which the state is engaging in aiming light, which is under no circumstances going to appear anyway. But I'm showing in the video that that's not even where that light is coming from. It is clearly separate. It is inexplicable light on this red bookcase, and you are looking at the concentrated light that is just coming out of nowhere. The state is aiming light, in other words, onto this area in the library where this red bookcase is, and this is light that is being aimed inside of the venue from outside, and it is not coming from the ceiling window area. You are clearly able to see this location and see how it is entirely separate. This is light essentially coming out of the atmosphere from which direction, but it is the same thing with directed light that fills this venue, and this is how you have the same conduct of more than one shadow, multiple shadows surrounding. This is light activity as these minions maintain presence and stalk with noise. Okay, this is the directed light. This is the state's engineered light that you're looking at, and that's what I took. I took a picture of the same light that is remaining, by the way, and from a different vantage point, and you're able to see that there's an absolute separation and no connection whatsoever. In other words, there is no guise under which the state's directed light is present, remaining over that bookcase on the ground. So I just want to point that out. That's what I took pictures of and video of right now. And again, my speaking to what is form, the guise under which the state engages in its activity of stalking with light, of stalking with noise, for example, like in the bathroom, and I provide what is the guise under which the state. I am speaking to knowledge of the state's intent, which is to engage in its demented conduct behind the guise of normalcy. All right. So the state engages in conduct under form. All right. And this is what the state is doing with third parties, engaging in stalking through the people. OK, that's supposed to be the face of normalcy, and it's absolutely not. All right. But you have what is my knowledge of this is in no way actually the explanation for it. I am providing what is context to the state's intent, the malice of the system. And when I am speaking to that which is unpersuasive, meaning you have light that's just coming out of the atmosphere, the state didn't even attempt to provide any form for that, meaning there's no car that's driving by at the same time that the state is shooting light into the atmosphere, so that the guise is that, oh, those are headlights that are shooting all the way up to the top of the building, which is equally ridiculous. But the state tries to use form, right? Like the sun remains over your head all day long everywhere you're going. It's ridiculous. The state does not remain over everyone's head everywhere that you're going all day long, okay? And that's not a mystery, okay? But this is what the state does. And so this directed light, like I said, this is No, guys, this is random light that's just on the floor, concentrated light that's just on the floor in front of this red bookcase, okay? It is in no way connected or even in any way feasibly coming from this window seal that's in the ceiling. And also you're talking about where it's at the front of the elevator, the face of the elevator on the ground, moving all around in all directions down the depths of the staircase, and now it is up in front of that bookcase. This is what the state is doing with directed light. That is a clear indication of what everyone in here is doing. Again, in addition to the state flying over day in and day out with helicopters and airplanes. This is the prosecution of the state stalking with police. All right. That is a clear indication of the ongoing conduct that the people inside of this venue are engaging in, and doing so while actively trying to obstruct publishing. You're going to be prosecuted for that, while actively engaging in what is terrorism, while they're engaged in the state's pattern of conduct, which is demonic. That's terrorism. And that's exactly how it's going to be prosecuted. So it's 3:24 p.m. and I did take pictures of what is sexual violence. These group stalkers sitting outside of the bathroom, and they're all together aware of what I'm doing in the restroom as I'm doing it. That is the sex offender. That is the state acting vicariously inside of this venue, because that's the reality of what they're doing. And it is depraved and highly, highly perverted. Okay. And so I just took a picture of one who is sitting in relevant position to the bathroom, which is you can prosecute off of that. But I'm letting you know that the entire venue is aware of what I'm doing. The state is focused on what I'm doing, and understand that the people are the entity that are focused, using what they have outwardly, which is being in the library, which is no form where its government is monitoring, by the way. Okay. But I'm speaking to how does the system operate? Oh, this is how they operate. This is how demons behave. Okay. Maliciously. All right. While they are entirely focused on you. Okay. And that is also demonstrated through the ongoing environment that is maintained. All right. And that's what I'm talking about with that directed light, with the state's light source, which is over this venue, with the state stalking, which I continue to document. It's 3:25 p.m. and that's P.O.C. All right, I just took a picture of a group stalker. It's 3:26 p.m. This is a white female. She's got a tattoo on her left arm with a small little black backpack on, face mask and glasses. What she's doing is she's maintaining presence while I am active on the internet, and that is uploading my podcast that I just recorded. And this is what they do, all right, as they maintain presence while I'm engaging in activity on the communication device. This is demonic activity, outwardly seeking to look as though they're doing one thing when they are engaging in something entirely different. That's the demons that I am surrounded by. That's the entity, okay, that is monitoring with the state. And this is irreducible evidence of what is actually ongoing. This is the pattern of conduct. I'm breaking down how the people engage in this terrorism with the state, and that's exactly how. Okay, it's 3:27 p.m. and she is actually monitoring what I'm uploading on my podcast. That is P.O.C. VEGAN 99. Again, that's license VEGAN 99. Coming around after. This is patrolling. License 8SSM 896. It's currently 9 p.m. on the dot, and I have exited third-party facilitating venue Ontario over the Family Community Library, where I was subject to ongoing monitoring the entire time without ceasing. License plate 7GRG 896. (9:01 p.m.) License plate 8BRW 411. It is 9:01 p.m. (7BPT020). It's 9:02 p.m. License plate 6RZD073. This is the same one that engaged in the assault and battery this morning, and it did the exact same thing. Understand, that's an African-American male with wearing a cap on his head, and I am standing on the sidewalk. He recognizes exactly who I am, by the way, and that is also spoken to by his conduct And also, it is nightfall. I just want to speak to that. That's license 8 VBG 271, and that's one entity. They're all prosecuted for that same assault with a deadly weapon. Crossing path with the state that is sounding plane engines at the same time. License 8SST 286 and license 5ZDK 148. License 7RZUD 50, 7XFL094, 7JXN320, 8DFR176. Third party facilitating venue Metro 102 Apartments. License plate, 8GQW700 and ROB3KKD 7N14661. State is flying over parallel to Hope Boulevard as I approach the intersection. There you go, 9:04 p.m. Flying right over the building, the storefronts of the 3-star janitorial warehouse and the 150 East Hope building, the health building. All right, not over 280 North Limit Apartments, not over the museum, right here in front of me. And that's called amplification. That's literally playing the tape of the sound of a plane. That's not the actual sound of that plane. The state has created a soundtrack while it is stalking, flying over in an airplane, and that literally sounds like a recording. The sound is mutated. It's morphed because it's so loud. It's 9:05 p.m. And that's exactly why you document third parties that are maintaining presence with that state and any location where you're at, because they are all monitoring conspicuously and inconspicuously, which is group stalking. It's 9:05 p.m. Y WX710 8DMJ 367. All of B&G Plaza is monitoring. 4RBA 460, I believe, substantially similar. I'm at the intersection of Plum and Holt, which is on camera. 8SYA 889. It's on camera, and they're patrolling. And B&G Plaza is on camera. They're engaging in patrolling, stalking with light. They're monitoring. I am in relevant position. And you hear the state stalking via aircraft. This is called audible activity. This is called repeatedly crossing a path. And I am also being molested at the same time with directed light. License plate 8LWB 822 99319. I can't really see the rest of them. That was a tow truck. License plate 7VNV 752 7ZAJ 436, I believe. It's 9:06 p.m. This is GTE Metal. That's a commercial vehicle with no license plate on the back. 6MGZ112, I believe, substantially similar. I can't really see that, but I want you to see this with all my shadows. All right, I just took a picture of what are my 4 shadows on the sidewalk. 7ERV367, license plate 8LDF579, license 20757D3, 7NMC761, 6ZAS311, 7UVT977, 8UGX344, 64409A3, 5DTK924. And I show in a video, and literally it looks like a line of, well, they're not people because it's my shadow, but it looks like a line of a shadow, like a line of people on the sidewalk, and it's my shadow. That's in front of me. License plate 8UMZ417. I can't really see that one that clearly. It's 9:08 p.m. The ongoing light activity is a direct indication of the criminal system underway. 8WAE485. The ongoing stalking conduct by the state directly, which is also the light activity. That's the state stalking directly. The state is the one that's capable of creating that light activity inside of any venue and outside as I go around any place and at all times and via any means of transportation. That's the state. That is the indicator of the ongoing system underway, not the lying audible activity out of the mendacious mouths of minions. You like my alliteration? They're liars, okay? They are engaging in an ongoing form that no longer exists. You are looking at what is monitoring criminal elements control. License 7TDJ360, 8TPO82, substantially similar. Let me get you this. BS69V69, engaging in assault and battery with a deadly weapon. All right, monitoring directed light via in concert with these headlights. This is a stalker right here. This is a directed light with their presence. This is concerted activity. License plate. And those are demons. You hear those vehicles? That's a means of communicating hostility. It's demonic what you're listening to. 8WOX881. Stalking with the state. All right? And understand that's the same entity. As they engage in creating audible activity, while they are monitoring the documentation that they maintain awareness of and engaging in continuing that conduct, and what you hear is roaring their engines. I'm letting you know with regard to the relevant context, these are demons that are expressing hostility as they engage in that terrorism, which are the criminal elements of monitoring in concert with the government, a public entity that's monitoring via communication devices. 7CDR422. Eight KTV 812, 8VXS 746, 7CCS 957, 8MQE 235. This is group stalking via Andy's Burgers. All right, a facilitator here at B&G Plaza, just like Starbucks is, providing what is non-existent form. Let me show you my shadow. All right, license plate 7ZTT544. As all these minions exit the restaurant, and that directed light I just showed you, they're creating a whole bunch of light activity while their shadows are standing up on the brick wall in impossible light that's supposed to be from the headlights in the drive-thru. 8RVC308. And guess what? Their little minion children are the same demon-possessed stalkers. They're acting with them. Okay? A demonic possession, which I am revealing, is not limited to your age. Okay, so I'm sorry to break anybody's heart. You've got this unrealistic notion about the natural goodness in people. Demon possession is that which is indiscriminate, and this is demonic. And they are using their little children. Understand, that's not an exception. There is no exception. BAJMA1, 8WMW384, 5ULV514, 40020V2. Okay? Walking, marching in relevant position in the state's directed light with little minionite children. I call them Minionites. And I've also documented little minions, children, okay, that are engaging in that same demonic behavioral pattern, stalking with noise. 7EJP192. Okay, that's the demonic aspect. It doesn't have anything to do with your age. Has nothing to do with your age. So this is license 7ZDZ684, and who's touching? Touching all over my body, and if they're not American citizens, they're going to be deported. License plate FSKM. Borrowing time in the United States while they're monitoring an American citizen, they're worthy to be shipped back to wherever they came from. License plate, is that the one I got already? 8MQE235, yeah. Their headlights are barely even lighting up the grass in front of that vehicle, let alone projecting my entire body upwards onto the brick wall in front of me in a magnified size. That's the state's directed light. 9D18815, and it is not an accident that it is occurring while they are present. All right, that's called the guise that does not exist, but that's what the government acts under, right? The state acts via the people. 8TTG211, who are supposed to be the mask that the state is wearing. And I'm telling you, I have stripped down that mask and shown you how it's not even logical or it's not even intelligent or sophisticated whatsoever what the state does. So all you have to do is pay attention. Pay attention to the fine detail. That's all you have to do. You do not need to be a legal scholar. You do not have to have a law degree. That aspect is necessary in order to prosecute and show you what policy is capable of confronting that which is of the demonic. It's not impervious to prosecution in a court of law. License plate 7HCM281. And you've got a homeless person that's maintaining presence. And that's just for purposes of avoiding identifying a license plate. Hello. It is 9:14 p.m. I'm at S.I.I.S Liquor. All right, I did exit the venue, and upon exit, you have third-party group stalkers arriving as I exit to molest with light using license plate 5RQM220. This smell is on the cameras of the S.I.I.S Liquor, and that's P.O.C. That's stalking with activity, the simultaneity of arrival in order to touch with light, cross path at the same time. That's P.O.C. It's 9:18 p.m. All right, monitoring through this amplified sound of traffic, 8HIL 696, 8MAA 574, 6KQH 429. Directed light sweeping across me while third party 8HPC 532 is crossing path. And by crossing path, I mean they were driving straight down the street, and you're looking, I see directed light sweep all the way across the Andy's Burgers drive-through sign that is on Hope Boulevard, okay? That's light that is swiping across me while he is driving straight, okay? That is P.O.C. That's light activity that would not occur, first of all, from his headlights. It's too rich and concentrated. It's too bright. That's the state's directed light. Secondly, where he is driving straight, that light activity is not going to occur onto the side, onto the sign, onto my person across his grass. If he is turning from Plum Avenue onto Holt Boulevard to turn into the plaza, that light activity is not going to occur. His headlights are going to be facing and actually toward the Holt and not toward me. Okay, that's P.O.C. All right, and so he just drives around in a circle again. Again, that's 8HPC 532. That's a male driving that car. He's going to be on the traffic cameras. He's got green light underneath his vehicle as well. That's stalking with the state. And that's demonic activity, demonic stalking. Stalking somebody you don't know. Understand why. He's motivated by what is of the demonic. That same demonic inspiration is what motivates them, okay? That's what motivates them. It's demonic. That's what they all have in common. Satan. License plate 8MQE235 again. License 8SMJ101. All right, and right now I'm looking at the sidewalk. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 shadows in front of me, okay? Oh, wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. 5 shadows in front of me. All right, and like I stated, what I say is occurring is exactly what's occurring. That's why I provide you video. X844A0, and that's audible activity using Tupac while I'm in directed light. There is no form. It's engagement in the elements, even if it's a good song, okay? It is currently 9:21 p.m. State is flying in a helicopter. Now, I will show you this in the video. All right, I did capture video of that. And again, what catches the attention is the amplification of audible activity. And be clear, remember, I've got my shadows, 5 of them in front of me. The state is amplifying the sound of a helicopter, which you are not going to hear. I just took a video of it. You see how far away it is. That's called amplification. And you've got the ongoing stalking by the state at the same method. All right? That's P.O.C. That is the pattern of conduct. And like I said this morning, while that foolish Ontario police officer, but he represents an entity that is entirely foolish and is very hostile to that prosecution that they are not avoiding. They are literally intensifying it second by second because it is what it is, meaning the result is already decreed, okay? You're talking about hostility to that which they cannot avoid, and they represent that which is of a demonic entity that is very hostile to that. Okay, the fact that I'm speaking to the truth, that this is demonic, the state actor flying in a circle over my head, that's a demon-possessed stalker. And that is a stalker by definition. Under the law, what the state is engaging in is stalking, and not only just stalking, that's a demon-possessed stalker. I'm letting you know, not only is the state stalking, the state is plagued with, is diseased with demon possession. That's why you've got this psychopath flying in circles over my head. And that's why you've got this psychopath that is engaging in stalking an American citizen that you don't even, well, you should know, but the state knows. Let me say, Big Brother knows everything about you. But that's a stalker. And that motivation is of the demonic. It's satanic. Okay? That's where that motivation comes from. That's where that desire comes from. That's where that impulse comes from. It's of Satan. Okay? It is of Satan. It is currently 9:24 p.m. and that's the state flying in a helicopter right next to me as I'm walking north on transit toward the museum. And by the way, the same thing while I was walking from the museum and the same thing as I arrived at the third-party facilitating venue of the library. Right? And yeah, there's no separation of the pattern of conduct. The Ontario Police Department, they are a bunch of fools, as well as sex offending, group stalking, psychopaths engaged in terrorizing someone, and they're going to be prosecuted. They're going to federal prison. I can't say it enough because that's what's going to happen every time I run across another fool. And that's what that was, a documented fool. And then the state flies over, the fool, the same fool, because you're talking about the same entity, flies over in a helicopter, in no way helping these third-party minions that are monitoring with them, with the state, in no way helping that ignoramus wearing an Ontario Police Department uniform, blatantly engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring and terrorism, because that's how that's analyzed. You're talking about an entity that is woefully inept and unprepared for that prosecution of epic proportions based on documentation that it has no defense for. No defense. Unprepared for documentation. This is a system that is of the demonic, first of all. So who is ever going to be able to discern the fact that this is born of Satan? All right, that takes a certain another level of ability, if you will. Okay. And that's the first grounds upon which this was never supposed to be exposed. But secondly, however, even being able to discern that it is of the demonic, it's certainly not ever supposed and was never anticipated to be able to be confronted. Okay? So because of the way that the system is designed, breaking that entire system down and showing how documenting an entity not in the same way, but analogous to the way that you would document an individual stalker. All right? This is the pattern of conduct of a stalker. The stalker happens to be a government. All right? And in that regard, it is unprecedented. Okay? You've got another stalker in the Emporia dead-end street while the state is stalking by a helicopter and while I am being molested with directed light. And the Ontario Police Department is always stalking. So this is already established. So I'm going to get this license plate. The state is also flying over this Emporia where I'm walking toward. And that's directly my shadows to my right, my shadows right in front of me. All right, and this is what I mean. There is no separation. Third parties and the state are engaging in federal stalking. It's a system of group conduct for which there is no form, and the state is relying on that presence. And then at the same time, thinks that they can stand around and not be documented or have some excuse whereby that system is not applicable to them. They have a rude awakening coming. License 8KWV057. A very rude awakening. It's 9:27 p.m. and that's the people of the state engaging in stalking. That's the same creeper that's flying in a circle in the helicopter, that's what the people are engaging in with the state. And they use their methods of stalking with light, use their methods of stalking. All right? Just hanging around, sitting around. They're stalking. That's what they are. And they are sick psychopath stalkers. Stalkers. It's not funny. It's just that I am pretty much, and just like I spoke to earlier, I just want to be clear. I want to clarify something. When I'm documenting third parties and I'm speaking to what is that engage, for example, what I encountered at Starbucks, a third party facilitating venue engaging in egregious criminal conduct, sexually violent, terrorism, and monitoring is what was documented. That's objective fact. That's documentation. All right. The evidence speaks for itself. The exact same pattern of conduct. And you have something that understands Starbucks is not going to want to be affiliated with on that day. Okay? They're going to want to have nothing to do with that. But anyway, you have what is the state acting via the people inside of the venue. And as I'm documenting, for example, today when I'm speaking to harassment by third-party group stalkers, all right, all manner of stalking ongoing, okay? All the hallmarks are present. Stalking with the police, stalking by plane, stalking by helicopter, stalking with light, all right? And then you engage in harassment. Oh, you're taking a picture of me. I want to be clear. What I speak to, I always point out the common sense aspect of what are stalkers that are failing at acting like they're not stalking. They act like, on the one hand, they want to act like they're not aware of you, but on the other, they're paying attention, very close attention. Are you taking a picture of me? Why are you assuming that I'm taking a picture of you? I'm holding my phone up and I'm speaking, and I could be on my FaceTime. I could be doing a video call. How do you know what I'm doing? Why are you so focused on me, and why are you concerned about it? I could be taking a picture of something behind you or that's right next to you. My point is, I'm pointing that common sense aspect out. But let me be clear. First of all, I'm documenting stalkers. I'm documenting the government. And I have shown in my documentation, I am clearly unapologetic, okay? I am not in any way timid in what it is that I am doing and my purpose, okay? I am resolute in that. I care not about what is coming out of the mouth of a third party. They are the stalker. They're the ones that are psychopaths. They are the weirdos. And I am absolutely unapologetic about documenting them. And like I said, nothing is going to get in the way because I'm advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual who shall enforce their rights against a government that thinks that it can employ some bully system and violate the rights of another. And I don't think it's not happening. That is not how this is going to end, period. Okay? And so, like I said, I am unapologetic. I do not care in the slightest about what is coming out of the mouth of any Starbucks employee that's a stalker and a sex offender, about any third party stalking me inside of a library while you know exactly what I'm taking a picture of. And like I said, as I've shown in my documentation, I don't hide any. I tolerate third parties. I tolerate the state. You have seen me be amicable. Those who are respectful to me, we get along fine. Even those who are disrespectful, it depends on, the threat that the state is waging. It's an ongoing threat to your life, and I deal with it accordingly, okay? But I am unapologetic about my documentation, and I shall continue to be that way. It is of necessity. This is about creating policy, and this is about exposing what is absolutely unlawful and egregious criminal conduct by a public entity, and it's going to be exposed in every single way, every facet of it. And I will not apologize for that. So I just want to be clear. I don't have anything I have nothing to be ashamed of. I have nothing to be embarrassed about. They are the ones who are engaging in the provision. Okay, because at this juncture, you have already lost. And by you, I mean the entity. You have already lost. You have lost badly. You are now at the junction where you're just embarrassing yourself. Okay, because that day is inevitable. That day is inevitable, meaning that day of judgment, that day of prosecution, that day of that conclusion, because it shall come to an end and the truth shall be fully exposed, and that result is not going to be avoided. You're talking about third parties in the state that are literally engaging in embarrassing themselves. Okay, and so I just want to make sure I clarify that, because when I'm talking about third parties that are saying, oh, you're taking a picture of me, you're recording, and I'm documenting federal group stalking, and first of all, you're stalking with activity. You know exactly what I'm doing, And this is deduced based on your conduct, which is within an established pattern, while the state is stalking with a light source and directed light inside of this venue and stalking by helicopter and airplanes. And then they have the audacity out of their mouth to act like they're shocked or something because they're being documented, which they know very well. I care not. Let me clarify that first of all. And it's not my job to. It's my job to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm absolutely unapologetic to any group stalking sex offender, because that's exactly what they are. That's exactly what they are. Okay, they are pathetic liars. All right, I'm going to poach them in the form of a federal court. It is currently 9:32 p.m. and that's P.O.C. I am at third-party facilitating venue. The Ontario Museum of History and Arts, and that is, again, more documentation of the state stalking in helicopter as I return to this venue. Okay, that's P.O.C.
Same combination of plane and train, 9:59 p.m. That's P.O.C.